Mali to build a 200-ton capacity gold refinery backed by Russia. On Monday, June 16, 2025,
Mali just laid a stone that could destroy foreign control over African gold. It is a gold refinery that will change everything. But how can one construction site threaten an entire global system? Let's find out. To the untrained eye, a gold refinery is just another industrial facility. Steel beams, conveyor belts, glowing furnaces, hardly the stuff revolutions are made of. But the refinery being built in Bamako is not just any facility. It's a weapon. A silent metallic weapon forged not for war, but for independence. And the West knows it. This refinery threatens something far older than colonialism. The invisible contract that keeps African nations exporting raw materials and importing poverty. For decades, Mali has dug gold from its soil, glimmering, precious, worth billions, only to ship it out raw. Once abroad, it's refined, polished, sold, and priced at 5 times its original value. That value doesn't just vanish, it transforms into skyscrapers in Dubai, hedge funds in London, and private vaults in Geneva. Mali gets the hole in the ground. Someone else gets the jewelry store. But now, that script is being rewritten. Quietly, without warning, without permission. This refinery, the first of its kind in Mali, is being built not to impress foreign investors, but to remove them. It doesn't need applause, it needs power, and it's getting it. Unlike previous mining deals where foreign companies ran the show, this time, Mali holds the pen and writes the rules. A Malian-led company, SOROMA-SA, will run the refinery. The state owns the majority. Foreign partners are just that, partners, not masters. Why is that dangerous? Because it sets a precedent. For decades, African leaders were told, you can't refine locally. You don't have the technology. You don't have the expertise. Let the markets handle it. But what they meant was, let us handle your wealth and give you crumbs. The refinery in Bamako challenges this lie. It proves that African nations don't need to export their gold in chains. They can process it, price it, and profit from it, right at home. And that realization is contagious. One refinery might not change the world, but it can start a fire. Already, whispers are spreading through ministries in Ouagadougou, Conakry, and Niamey. If Mali can do it, without World Bank loans, without IMF strings, and French oversight, then what's stopping everyone else? That's the fear. Because this isn't just an economic shift, it's a psychological breach. It's the moment when African states stop asking for validation and start taking what's theirs. And once gold is refined at home, other questions follow. Why not refine bauxite in Guinea? Why not process uranium in Niger? Why not sell oil without middlemen in Congo? Each step chips away at a structure that stood for over a century. The idea that Africa provides the raw and the West provides the rest. And the location of this refinery matters too. It's being built near Bamako's international airport, not buried deep in the bush or hidden in an isolated mining zone. That's not a coincidence. It's symbolic. Mali isn't hiding this transformation. It's putting it on display, right at the country's front door. For every diplomat landing in Bamako, every investor arriving to discuss deals, that refinery will stand like a silent monument, a gleaming reminder that the rules are changing. But here's what makes this even more dangerous to the old world order. It wasn't negotiated in a Western boardroom. No glossy World Economic Forum roundtables. No American trade envoys. The deal was struck with Russia's Yadrin Group and a discreet Swiss investment partner. That means Mali chose partners outside the Western sphere, a geopolitical statement wrapped in economic strategy. In a world increasingly divided between Western hegemony and emerging multipolar powers, Mali has thrown its weight behind the latter. And it did so not with rhetoric, but with infrastructure. This is no longer just about gold. It's about sovereignty. It's about who writes the rules of trade, who controls production, and who benefits when wealth changes hands. And now that Mali has started this journey, the next question isn't, will it succeed? The next question is far more unsettling. What happens when other African nations follow? Let's pause for a second to say, Big thank you to the Black Culture Diary community, where Black voices, stories, and legacies are preserved and amplified. By becoming a member, you're not just supporting the channel, you're becoming part of a powerful cultural movement. Let's continue. When one nation defies a centuries-old system, it's a bold act. When several do it at once, it becomes a movement. Mali's Gold Refinery may have been born out of necessity, a cry for control over its resources. But its real power lies in its potential to trigger a cascade across West Africa. Because the truth is, Mali is not an isolated case. It's just the first to stand at the edge and take the leap. Look at the Sahel region. It's a corridor rich in everything the world needs: gold, uranium, bauxite, manganese. And yet, year after year, the wealth beneath its soil remains untouched, unprocessed, unclaimed by its people. For too long, this region was told it needed outsiders to extract and refine its resources. The World Bank offered loans, foreign companies offered contracts, and former colonial powers offered partnerships, all of which somehow ended with African countries earning the least from what they owned the most. But Mali's refinery breaks that cycle, and now all eyes are on its neighbors. Burkina Faso has been moving in a similar direction, aggressively renegotiating mining contracts, demanding fairer revenue splits, and tightening control over who operates within its borders. President Ibrahim Traoré has already voiced support for resource nationalism and hinted at building domestic value chains. If Mali succeeds in refining gold independently, why wouldn't Burkina Faso follow? Then there's Guinea, sitting on the world's largest bauxite reserves, the core ingredient of aluminum. For decades, multinationals have extracted Guinea's bauxite and shipped it to China for processing. Guinea gets a pittance, China gets a profit. That arrangement has survived because no one offered a working alternative. But if Mali can refine gold and retain most of the profits, Guinea's leaders could be tempted to explore in-country aluminum refining too, even if it means inviting new players like Russia or China into the fold instead of relying on the old Western networks. Niger, meanwhile, controls a critical piece of the world's nuclear puzzle: uranium. The French built their nuclear energy empire on Niger's back, paying cents while charging their citizens for billion-dollar megawatts. The junta in Niamey has made it clear they want to reassess uranium deals and increase local control. Seeing Mali make its refinery work might just push Niger to establish its uranium value chain, forcing France and Europe to rethink their quiet exploitation. This domino effect wouldn't just be economic, it would be ideological. It would mean the rejection of the colonial resource model and the rise of a new regional doctrine. We dig it, we refine it, we own it. And that kind of regional alignment is precisely what foreign powers fear. Because a single country can be isolated, sanctioned, sabotaged. But a block of countries building their refining capacity, pricing their resources, and trading among themselves, that's a threat to the existing global order, and especially to Western economic influence in Africa. What makes this more potent is that these countries are increasingly choosing alternative partnerships. Instead of looking to Paris, Washington, or Brussels, they're turning to Moscow, Beijing, Ankara, and even forging intra-African deals. They're cutting out middlemen, creating joint infrastructure plans, and rewriting investment rules. And it's all happening quietly, intentionally, and irreversibly. But the most dangerous part of this domino effect is the psychological shift. African leaders who once felt powerless in global markets are now watching a neighbor take control of its destiny. That's empowering. It reshapes the internal conversation from "we can't afford this" to "we can't afford not to." Mali may have lit the match, but if the fire spreads to its neighbors, the result won't just be better contracts or fatter budgets. It will be a continental awakening, one that redefines the relationship between Africa and the world, especially in how value is created, retained, and defended. And here's the thing: you can't bomb a refinery. You can't sanction a mindset. Once this shift begins, it becomes very difficult to reverse. So now the question isn't just about Mali anymore. It's about the entire region. What happens when West Africa refuses to be the world's raw material warehouse? Here's a reminder to please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on Black culture, history, civilization, and identity. Let's continue now. The dominoes haven't even all fallen yet, but already the pushback has begun. No airstrikes, no sanctions, no loud condemnations. That's not how power works anymore. The resistance to Mali's refinery and the broader resource rebellion sweeping West Africa is happening behind closed doors, buried inside trade clauses, hidden beneath diplomatic smiles. Because when African nations stop playing the role of extraction zones, those who profit from that system don't throw tantrums, they pull strings. And make no mistake, the strings are being pulled. The first line of attack isn't military, it's monetary. The financial press has suddenly discovered concerns about Mali's economic stability. Institutions that once turned a blind eye to rampant gold smuggling and unfair contracts are now issuing stern warnings about nationalization risks and governance uncertainties. They're not worried about corruption, they're worried about control slipping away. Global credit agencies are reevaluating Mali's debt profile, hinting at downgrades that could restrict international borrowing. These moves aren't accidental. They're pressure tactics, disguised as fiscal concern. If you want to kill a project quietly, you don't need to invade. You just make it too expensive to finance. Then comes the information war. Within days of the refinery's announcement, Western think tanks and media outlets began churning out stories with strangely synchronized messaging. Is Mali becoming too dependent on Russia? Can state-led projects succeed without IMF oversight? Is local refining efficient enough for African economies? Suddenly, Mali's move toward resource sovereignty is framed not as progress, but as a reckless gamble. It's no longer about justice or self-reliance. It's about risk, uncertainty, the dangers of non-aligned behavior. These narratives are carefully designed. They don't outright condemn the refinery. They just plant doubt, make investors nervous, signal to local elites that the smart move is still to look west, to wait for permission rather than build without it. And then there's the legal sabotage. Multinational mining firms, many of which have operated for years in Mali under highly favorable terms, are now dusting off their contracts and searching for loopholes. Several are already threatening arbitration over Mali's new mining code. Their argument? That forcing local refining or offering shares to Malian stakeholders violates investor protection clauses baked into older deals. This is how sovereignty gets strangled, not by armies, but by lawyers and lobbyists. The real irony: these same companies paid almost nothing in taxes for years. They exported Mali's gold, reaped record profits, and returned crumbs. Now that the country wants to keep a bit more for itself, they're claiming victimhood, with full backing from foreign trade officials. But the subtlest form of retaliation comes through regional destabilization. It's no secret that the Sahel has long been a playground for proxy actors, militias, private contractors, intelligence agencies, each playing their geopolitical games. In recent months, whispers have grown louder in Bamako about the re-emergence of foreign-backed influence operations. Not invasions, infiltration, targeted efforts to undermine Mali's leadership, fuel internal division, or quietly back opposition voices who promise to restore international trust. You don't need to topple a government to kill its vision. You just need to make it seem incompetent, unstable, or corrupt, especially in the eyes of its people. The refinery project, for all its potential, is vulnerable. It's still under construction. It needs time, capital, labor, and unity to succeed. And that's exactly what foreign powers want to fracture. Because if Mali's experiment fails, not because of poor planning, but because of orchestrated sabotage, it sends a message to every other country considering the same path. Don't try this. You'll be punished. You'll be isolated. You'll be destabilized. That's the game. Not open war, but strategic suffocation. And yet, despite the obstacles, something different is happening this time. The usual tools of control aren't working as well. The threats aren't silencing. The bribes aren't buying loyalty. The fear isn't spreading fast enough. Mali isn't backing down, and neither are its neighbors. Which begs the next question. If the old tools of domination are failing, what's the new playbook? And can Africa face it? Every refinery needs walls, steel gates, security cameras, armed guards. But the refinery Mali is building requires far more than physical protection. It needs to be defended in a way most infrastructure never is, as a symbol. Because what's under construction near Bamako's airport isn't just a facility, it's a frontier. And frontiers attract enemies, not the kind that roll in with tanks or drop bombs from drones. Those are old methods. What Mali now faces is more elusive: discrediting, disruption, and internal corrosion. If the refinery fails, the world will not say it was sabotaged. It will say it was naive, that Africa tried to rise but tripped on its ambition. Which is why Mali's greatest challenge isn't building the refinery, it's defending it after the headlines fade. Let's begin with the most immediate threat: internal compromise. All revolutions face this test. It's not the opposition from outside that first breaks them. It's what happens when the dream becomes routine. Will Mali's leadership remain aligned as the refinery nears completion? Will the bureaucracy resist the temptation of kickbacks and inflated contracts? Will the youth hired to operate this vision be trained, supported, and empowered, or left watching from behind locked gates as foreign technicians fill the roles? Corruption doesn't always look like a suitcase full of cash. Sometimes it looks like neglect, like letting foreign consultants creep back in quietly for support. Sometimes it looks like fatigue, the slow erosion of political will. And the refinery, like any national project, will test Mali's stamina. But beyond the internal, there's the regional pressure. West Africa is not a stable neighborhood. Smugglers, insurgent groups, and political spoilers are all active forces. Some have an ideology. Many simply have guns and incentives. A facility that handles gold on this scale and challenges power structures in the process will be targeted, if not by violence, then by shadowy influence. Will security forces be trained to protect it as critical infrastructure? Will intelligence agencies identify and neutralize foreign-backed interference early enough? These aren't afterthoughts, they're strategic necessities. Because if this refinery goes offline even once, the damage won't just be physical, it will be psychological. Then there's the global financial backlash. As Mali builds, someone else loses. Someone's refinery in Europe processes a little less gold. A middleman in Dubai gets fewer contracts. A logistics company in Geneva loses a shipping lane. These players may seem distant, but their reach is not. They operate through multilateral banks, corporate lobbyists, and legal frameworks that can suddenly make life difficult for Mali. The West won't stop Mali with bullets. They'll use bond markets, trade restrictions, and subtle regulatory blackmail. If Mali wants to export refined gold, it will need buyers. But what if certification agencies claim the gold isn't traceable enough? What if shipping companies raise security premiums? What if global indices refuse to recognize Mali's refining standards? These moves won't make headlines. They'll just quietly suffocate progress in paperwork and pricing penalties. To defend against this, Mali must build more than a refinery. It must build an ecosystem. That means creating regional trade pacts with countries like Guinea, Burkina Faso, and Chad, so gold has multiple buyers. Establishing alternative certification systems through BRICS or the African Union to bypass European bottlenecks. Investing in media and narrative control, so when the attacks come, Mali has a voice strong enough to respond. Because the world isn't just watching the refinery, it's watching how Mali handles the pressure that comes with it. If Mali can keep its economy stable, its youth engaged, its narrative strong, and its partners loyal, then the refinery becomes unstoppable. Not because of gold, but because of what it will represent. It will represent proof. Proof that an African country can break the mold, keep its wealth, and build a system designed for its people, not its colonizers. Proof that Africa can extract its resources and extract itself from the systems that have exploited it. Proof that sovereignty isn't a speech, it's a structure, and in this case, a facility rising from the dust, glowing with purpose, and guarded not just by fences, but by the collective will of a nation refusing to be poor any longer. So the question isn't whether Mali can build this refinery, it already has. The real question is, will the world allow it to survive? And if it doesn't, will Africa finally fight for it anyway? Let us know in the comments section. What can West do about it? Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If so, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We have decided to bring videos on something nobody talks about: the Black culture, civilization, history, and evidence about how glorious Blacks have been. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.